Hi guys, how you doing? This is ArtsyWisdom. My name's Diane. Let me scoot over a little bit. Hope you're doing well. Thank you for coming by. Today is Saturday. There's a big Oilers game tonight, but I have my Chicago Bears sweatshirt on just because our new Pope is from Chicago, and I'm sure. And I found out he's from the South Side, near Dalton, which is not far from where I grew up, which is in Northwest Indiana. So he's a down-to-earth, blue-collar guy, which I love. And I also saw little pieces, snippets about the conservatives are going to be upset because he's not going to be conservative enough. And I guess they put a lot of money into somehow getting the Cardinals to choose a more conservative. I can't believe money. So frustrating. Anyway, I had that video last time when I got into his energy. I think he's going to be a really good guy. I think he's going to be more conservative than Francis, but he also is going to focus more on the people on the edges, people that don't get seen, the underserved community, the immigrants, poor, and I think he's just going to be a good person. Okay, so today I talked to my owl spirit a little bit, and he gave me some more information, a tiny bit of change, but most of this reading is about today. I got into Queen Elizabeth, her energy, Prince Philip a little bit, Princess Diana, Harry and Meghan, and then I went all the way back, quite a long conversation with Henry VIII and his energy, and spoiler alert, it's gigantic, and his view on his children, the three, I think Edward and Mary and Elizabeth, actually the first. Anyway, I thought it was very telling, and I know times have changed, but I'll try to explain to you what I felt and what I saw. All right, you guys, let's get started. And those of you who haven't been here before, I do take notes and I meditate first. But thank you again for all my lovely commenters, viewers. You guys have been really great. And it makes me feel so good. I'm growing this little community, and I really appreciate it. Yeah, my husband's building me a table. I've got a hodgepodge of tables here. I wouldn't even dare to show you because it's not scary, but messy. And I would like to get it more organized. So he's, instead of all these different levels, he's creating a nicer one. And he's going to be cutting it soon. So I'm going to do that out there with him in case I have to run and help. The neighbor's helping. There are people here now at the lake because it's warming up. All right, so I wanted to remind you guys of my owl spirit card. I've been looking at them this week. I also had a meditation, side note. I see this bearded man, and I started realizing, on Harry Potter, Hagrid, this person kind of reminded me of that. And then he had that owl. My mind, my visions take all sorts of travels and hither and yon. So I just wanted to share that with you. And I think it's somehow related, and then the water. But let me start off with that owl spirit. At this point, I'm actually out of the water. Last time I saw myself moving away from the water towards that island where all the Trump people and the people who nefarious plans and dark things that they're doing are hiding. They're digging their hole inside the island, and they've got a dark border around it. And Trump was separating himself. He was going away from them and going in the water towards all those boats that were filling this sea, and they're going towards the big cities there, rich, abundant, prosperous cities. Shiny. They were shiny. And he's going that way. And I believe all these boats, I've come to realize, all these boats are the world, or the rest of the world, not just the United States. And he's moving that way. And I see him kind of trying to push his, like almost swim, but when you're standing in water and you're trying to walk in water, it's like that. And he's making headway, and he's going, it's almost like he's trying to not block, he just wants to get to the cities before the world people do. So I think it has to do with the economies and tariffs and making an agreement, and he's going to make it there, and he's going to get it there before they get too mad at him. I think that's what it is. And I know they're meeting, I forget who it is, meeting with China this weekend. And he even said, I think on a quote, he said, I wouldn't be too bad if I think we could settle around 80% or whatever, the China tariffs. When I sit in that energy of coming up with an agreement and Xi's energy, they're still resistant, but I do feel a compromise here. I do feel definitely a compromise from Xi's point of view, the China's point of view. They've been playing the long game for a long time, and they've been moving things around to make sure they can handle whatever happened. But I think they're ready to make a compromise. There's some portion of its intellectual rights or something, because China does steal a lot of intellectual property of different, they're always stealing the codes and things for electronics, all kinds of things that they do. They just get in there and steal them so they can make them for the cheap, on the cheap. Something to do with that in this agreement, I think. But it's not yet. It's down the road. I don't think this weekend's going to be 100% figured out. They're going to have a discussion. This person's got to go back to the people in power, Xi or whatever. And I saw him with Putin watching a parade the other day. Those guys got to work together. Anyway, they're going to go back, come up with some other plans, and they will come up with an agreement. I do feel like that's going to happen. And then our stock market will be more settled. There's something about India. I know India and Pakistan. Something about India and China too, where that'll be part of this agreement. I have no idea why that would be, but there's something that is like, you can't give India this. If you're going to have this tariff thing, we got to, you have to agree not to make a trade agreement with India, that something or other. I don't know. So I think it's going to work out. I don't see 80%. I feel like 60 or 65. Is that too little? I feel like that might land there. Meanwhile, Mr. Owl guy is huge, and I'm on the beach now. I'm not in the water any longer, and it's hot. The sand is really warm, and he is gigantic, almost like angelic form. Angels I always think of as towering, like 15 feet tall or 12 feet tall or something. They were in human's form, gigantic like that. And I felt like this owl was like that too. So maybe it's an owl, an angelic being in the form of an owl, but he's huge, and I can hear the when you hear a feathers rustle like that, that's what I feel like. He's right there, and he's got me sitting down, and he's pointing to Trump, saying he's going over there. I don't know why I have to not be in the water right now. Or it's like a wait. I'm waiting. That's what I felt. Like he's like, just hang out here for a while. And I don't know why that is. But I feel very safe. I feel comfortable. In fact, I'm a little warm. It's too warm in the sun and the sand. But Trump's sneaky, scary guys that want to destroy anything that's non-white or anything that people want to do that's not heterosexual and Christian, they are just doing their little disgusting stuff over here. And they're all together. It's like they're separate. That's how I've seen it. They're all separate, even from Trump. Like he's trying to make it seem like everything's going to be fine. He needs to get ahead of the game, needs to get ahead of it, and he's working it out. So there you go. I'm going to start off with Henry VIII because, chronological. Immediately when I got into his energy. Now, some of you asked me, how can you get into the person if they're a soul, if they've moved on? How is that possible to get into their energy as a human form? I don't know. I don't know how this works. But I do, it's like maybe I'm traveling remotely to the energy of them in that time. I think that's what it is. And I can sense their soul is part of this, but it's almost like the energy of that human in that moment and the ego. And then when they pass on, I can see if they haven't gotten into other lives or if they're somewhere out in the universe, depending on who I'm talking about. But it's like I don't want to say time travel, but time doesn't go in a straight line. It's more of a spiral. So I think I jumped from jumped. I think. I don't know, like I say in my description, it's an experiment. If you're, you know, if you don't mind that, stick around. Subscribe even if you want. I see him loud and yelling, and he's laughing in a not hysterical way, or laughing like he's laughing at me in a way, because I'm kind of like, you moron. And I said, and he says, I was meant to be a force. He came back lots and lots to share his wisdom, meaning came back to Earth after he died. Came back lots and lots because he had a lot of wisdom, and he also had a giant ego, and he had to work through that. In fact, I have these both notes and they kind of overlap, so I might go back and forth. So sorry if it's choppy. And he said, I'm smart and wise as souls go. And he smiles at me laughing, like I said. Right now, I feel like he's in between lives at the moment. And he says, I love to jump around. So even beyond this earthly existence, his soul is, I wouldn't say it's evolved. I would say it's bountiful is the word that's coming to mind. I don't know if he's been many larger than life people. Maybe. And then he says, call me your royal highness. That's only proper. Bow, quote unquote bow. Do not cut me off, because I was starting to ask him questions. He said, I am the most important one here. And he's saying, I am, meaning I'm everything. He said, my soul is brighter and bigger. That's the feeling, bountiful, bigger. He said, I go where I'm needed on earth and elsewhere, meaning in between lives. He goes, and some sort of, I don't know, it's not quite a service, but his soul serves a purpose on earth. And it has to do with a spiritual thing where he, on the other side, there's some sort of contract or discussion about where he's most needed. And that's strange. In real life, I'll tell you about what other this is. Henry had people killed. And, from a soul's perspective, he's saying Henry would have people killed. He said, I would not, because he's, on the other side. He said, of course, Henry was weak for food and sensualities like women. Said, my descendants, meaning the line of royalty in the Great Britain, he said most of them are weaklings, except a few. And then I asked him about Anne Boleyn. He said, so fascinated with her. She was smart and bewitching. Ultimately failed and was not faithful. Realized I could keep having wives after her. She was the trigger that changed everything in his viewpoint about, once he just realized or came up with the idea, or whoever suggested it with him, his bishops or whoever, his advisors, I can do that too, and it just opened up the floodgates, I guess. He says, I could keep having wives after her, Church of England. I said, do you feel bad about all the, executing of your wives and divorce? He said, a bit, but it doesn't matter. He said, church. And when I get in his energy and I'm looking at the Church of England, the brand new doctrine, like it hasn't been even established yet, it feels so new and unprecedented. It's almost like prior to it is blank, and then it begins, and then it moves forward like it was invented, obviously, but it was nothing up until then. And it feels open to all possible directions. He says friars, but I don't know what he means by friars, meaning religious people. Maybe that's just what I got in my head. Will take care of to draw it up properly. He said, I no longer want to be overseen by the papacy or Catholic, the Pope. They know nothing of England's goals, pride, and kingdom. He's saying they can't understand the church, the Catholic Church could not understand the needs and goals of England or Britain at the time. And he says, I like seeing my enemies killed. Francis of France and I are different, but alike. Our marriages align us. I don't know what that means. He says that he spends too much money, meaning Francis spends too much money, wants what I want, and he spends wildly. And then when I did it today or yesterday, he said, I got this feeling he's very smart. He's a warrior and he's a strategist. Like, he's really intelligent. I think as life went on and all the stuff he did to his body and everything, I think it wore him down. But I think he was a really good soldier. And like, I picture, like, I don't know, say George Washington or Patton or somebody like that who's a strategist in wartime. Totally wrong. Could be. Those of you who know history can tell me I'm wrong, but that's the feeling I get. And he was educated. I felt like he was robust, loud. That's the feeling I told you already. He was very loud. And his ego took over. And I seem to have this. Ego took over and power corrupted him eventually. He said he wanted a legacy of strength in England. And he said, again, killing is normal, common. Otherwise, I'd be killed. And that's the feeling I got. He's like, that's just the way you just had to take out people or else they'd take you out. And there were some secret documents back and forth to France. And so, again, with this Francis, there's some sort of connection. I think it might have been a love-hate relationship or something. There was some secret stuff going on that I don't know what happened exactly. And they were dangerous. Oh, the documents back and forth were to France, and they were dangerous and scandalous. Ultimate decider. He said I was the ultimate decision maker. And then I asked him, well, I kind of jump around a little bit. I asked him about Queen Elizabeth I, his daughter, and he said he minimizes her. And same with Mary, the other, Mary, Queen of Scots, I think is. They were his children, but they were women, and he really, obviously back then women weren't equal to men. But there was something about, even though they were both, especially Elizabeth, was a powerhouse, I think. My feeling is, I think, she was a woman, and she couldn't have, because he's a man, and it's all about force and strength and power and taking what you want. And a woman feels like they can be manipulated, and they're also weak physically. They may be smart, but they can't fight, and there's something about that. He said, she's not as good as me. She had help from advisors, and it says bishops. I don't know who would be in there helping her. He said, Mary, nope. Edward. And then I hear Edward, and it's like he feels joyful. He feels good. He feels so happy to have a male heir. Because Elizabeth came from Anne Boleyn, who was really smart. But I think the sense is that I have that she's really smart. Catherine of Aragon had Mary. And and then Jane Seymour had Edward. The divorce and everything, I think Mary, I'm not even going to go into the history. I'm just saying how he feels about each one of those. When I'm getting into his energy on a soul level, I feel like the very male dominant energy is intense later and created a lot of bad karma that he had to deal with on a soul level. And it was at the time, that's what they did at the time, but there's some negative karma that he had to really process in many, many more lives after that. And because his soul is so bountiful or giant, there's so much in there. And then, and it has lots of depth to the bad karma. And then I see him as this very weak, meek, not weak, I shouldn't say, thin, quiet, meek man. Sometime in the future, I don't know when exactly, modest, where he is in that life, and I don't even know where it is, somewhere thinner, just a man, and having to adjust to that from that bad karma mentality of me strong, I have all the power, to this smaller, weaker, powerless human in some place. And then I saw him, all of a sudden I'm on a horse, and I can feel the reins going back and forth on either side of the horse, and I'm in a forest. And I don't even know, I've been on horses, but not very much so I even know. But I feel like the reins, like he's kind of trotting or something, where he's kind of going a little bit faster than just walking. And there's people in this forest, and they're poor and they're dirty, and he sees them, and I see them. I know this sounds gruesome, but he just like decides, because they look at him, they should have bowed, or they should have been more subservient or something. I don't know exactly what happened, but I think they got him on a bad day, honestly, because they didn't do much. But they're looking at him, and maybe they asked him for something. But he takes his sword. It's like bang, 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 all their heads come off. I know, that's disgusting, but it's like he ruled like that. He had to. I know he was educated, but I feel like he later especially felt like he had to rule like that, like dominant. He saw Anne and Catherine and Mary later in other lives. They were all connected, and Mary was mother later to him, whoever he was. So she was his mother, and a man somewhere, like I told you. Lots of religious karma. There's so much karma in him in regards to religion, doctrine. I feel like he would have been killed for his beliefs in another life. He got, he went against whoever was in power at the time in the future. And he got tortured and killed. Doctrine. There's something, and it says repeated. And then I see cult leader. I feel like there's a cult leader in him, and then there's a force is the theme with him. Force is this theme. It's just this dominant energy. When I looked into Anne, I got into her energy, and I told you what he thought about her. And then her view is he was amazing. She said, I loved him, and he is quite intelligent. I can use my women marital bed to influence, though. I think it was a combination. She really did care for him, but she knew that she could influence him because of her bewitching ways, I guess. She said, I am pleased to do so. He soon eventually finds me dull and won't see me. Believes I bewitched him, tricked him, No, yet I do not limit my speech or mind. I asked her, why don't you stop getting into trouble, basically. She said, no, yet I do not limit my speech or my mind. She tells it like it is. This offends him to show his lacks, meaning she'll say stuff, and for whatever reason, he takes it as a criticism. Maybe she means it that way, but he interprets it that way. Maybe it's his sensitive little fragile ego or whatever. And so it's part of the reason, And I smell, it's so weird. I smell blood. Like I see I'm going to I've never had my head cut off or on a on a trunk or a guillotine or whatever, but I'm coming up there and I'm smelling blood. There's been something happening. It's like old, that smell of blood, that's old. I feel too young to die. And she said, I gave him so many ideas for reforming things to help him. And he went off the rails, not off the rails completely, but just the power took over, right? And then I asked her any wisdom, and she said, I would not change it. She said, I would do it again. So I don't know what that means. She's willing to leave. I think life was short back then anyway, so. She felt like she contributed to the human race somehow. She felt like she contributed to the greater good somehow. I don't know. Very interesting. So I had to run down there. The guys finished cutting the table. Now my husband's having a beer with them. So I had to thank him because that was a big piece of wood. Okay, so let's get into Queen Elizabeth. Oh, wait, real quick. Before I asked Henry VIII what he thought about Trump. And he said, and this is for entertainment purposes only, because this is only my musings for entertainment. He should be beheaded. He is not a good leader for your system, but he wants to change the system, not for the greater good. Oh, I forgot about this. And then I asked about the monasteries too that he closed. And he said, yeah, I mean, Henry, then there were none. He said, I must show strength and remove signs of Catholicism. Fun times back then. Now I'm into Queen Elizabeth, our recent queen prior to King Charles, who I didn't look at really yet. Just I will eventually, but right now somebody asked me about that. I asked, oh, I know, again, I seem like I'm scattered. I asked Henry too about her, and he said it's another woman, fine. And she kept Great Britain whole, was not forceful enough, but as a woman, a Windsor, she wasn't a Tudor. Lots for show, he says, no meat. It's the same as the force, the strength, just a weakness. And that's Henry back then's view, you know, not the soul Henry. That Henry or that soul is very kind to her. He feels very loving to her. He feels like she is an amazing woman. But the Henry of old from the 1500s, she wouldn't have lasted. So there you go. Okay, so now I'm in Queen Elizabeth's energy. She was scared when her father became the monarch or the king, when her uncle abdicated. She knew her life would change forever and didn't know how, and that scared her. She was a kid, you know, she was a little girl. And I believe, she says, I was God appointed to my role as queen. She feels like it was a spiritual calling that God, you know, God save the queen kind of thing. She feels spiritually, she's been blessed to be this, and she's put here for a reason. That's how she feels like. That was her here. Her duty as queen, and God chose her as England's queen. She said, I won't apologize for colonization. That was then, meaning you can't go back. No longer the way. The world is smaller, she says. I'm disappointed. I feel like when I'm looking at my family, meaning her children, Charles, and not so much Anne, but in her view, Anne is so strong. She's like, oh, she doesn't need any help. She takes care of everything. But I think it's her sons that she's disappointed in. Not so much Edward as much, but she's disappointed in the family mess. She said, Andrew, Harry, Charles, affair with Camilla. She said, Diana was way too sunshiny, and she took all the attention. She was not how we should be, meaning she was so different than us. Although I know she came from an aristocratic family, but she was just so different from their personalities. But she had gifts. She did admit, she said she had a lot of gifts for people. Diana did. And then I'm seeing the queen on a horse again, too. And not like him, where he's going to cut off, you know, Henry cutting off heads, but why she's on a horse. But she's on a horse right now. And she says, Charles is putting too much emphasis on things that do not support the foundation of the monarchy. Meaning he's distracted by these things and he made, you know, he's a very environmentalist. He's big into architecture. And he's not trying to expand the monarchy. I know he's trying to minimize it or make it more streamlined, less expensive maybe. But she said it does not support the foundation of the monarchy, his pet projects. She says actually Camilla? That's so weird that Kamala and Camilla are the same. I just realized that. She has more sense, actually. And I asked her about Trump, and she says he has no history, he has no education. Even though he has been to school, she said he's not smart. She said it reminds me of a lowlife that lives in alleys, gang bosses from mobs, she says. But I know how to ignore his stupidity and be polite. He can't catch the digs that she does because they're just very pointed and very intelligent. He's not quick enough, she said, although she's gone now, but I think at the time. She said the whole economy is terrible in the UK now. Feels like the system is broken apart. And I asked her, what's going on? She said, I'm enjoying heaven. And I saw her flying around, kind of like, was it? Yeah, Pope Francis. He was zipping around. Not the same, but a little bit different. She said, I'm flying and healing and learning. And Philip is here, she said. Spirit family, he's there, happy. He is eager to come back, she said. He's ready to come back to Earth, and she's not. She wants to stay up there. She has a lot to process. And then I got into his energy, and he says he's grateful, even found stability with her. I asked him about his relationship with Elizabeth. Had to lose his ego, he said. I was in a good marriage, but the queen was in charge. I obey. And he said and then from his perspective, he's looking at Diana, Princess Diana, and he says, my darling Diana, hard to change to be here. Meaning she is my soul, in my soul family. They had that relationship. I didn't know that. He said, Diana had a hard change to be there. It was a shock that she died, and she was shocked that she died. Didn't expect it. She has returned, yet a part of her is with Will and Henry, meaning down here for another person. But yet part of her is still connected to her boys, William and Henry, or Harry. Henry is like me and is a Spencer. She said, I am working on him to let go. So she's trying to get him to heal and to let go of his chip on his shoulder. She said, I'm good now. He can't forget. Meghan is Meghan, his wife. She said, we both chose poorly, meaning she chose Charles and he chose Meghan. He will see eventually. She said, Lilibet, their daughter, is so adorable, and Archie has Harry's issues. Dramatically victim-y. They live in the kind of a victim place. She tries to get William to smile. She said, he's such a pretty smile. So proud. And she's saying she's so proud that they raised those kids, George and Charlotte and Louis, as a normal, quote unquote, fairly normal family. Gave them a normal upbringing as possible. Of her death, I asked her about that, and she said, I was wandering through relationship, and Dodie was the flavor at the moment. He had money and security, and I felt powerful when I died. Oh, okay. What this is about is when she actually left, and then right before that, when she was alive, she felt good. She was feeling good. She felt powerful. She felt like in control of her life. So she didn't leave with regrets in a way, I don't think, is what I'm hearing. Literally. I left with no regrets, except the boys. Those are sad, She said, I am a little girl. Oh, now she's a little girl somewhere, and kind of redoing it as a woman. She says, I see all my grandchildren and speak to them. So she goes and talks to all of them. Even Lilibet may see me, actually, she said. Harry could be in danger, but not like me, meaning he talks about his security is so bad and people are out to get him and he's a high risk. But she's like, he's not like I was in danger. I know that they changed the rules in England after her death about paparazzi. She said, Meghan is keeping him down a rabbit hole. It'll take 10 years for him to heal mostly heal. It's going to take him many, many years, she said. Harry, sad and angry. I got into his energy, and he's sad and he's angry, and no one listens or sees the problems. He's very frustrated because nobody sees him. But that comes from his inner knowing that he's valuable, and he doesn't feel like he has that. So nobody sees that. And he's frustrated with that. He said, nobody sees the problems I face. I need to make them see. He wants everybody to hear him and actually, give him that validation that he needs. But reality, he will never get it except from himself. Distracted with a chip on his shoulder. I feel like he's all over the place. He's starting to see Meghan cannot fill that hole that he has had, and he thought she had been doing it, but he realizes now it's still there and he can't fill it. It's a process, though. She is too selfish, but I need a mom to tell me it's okay. So she takes the place as a mother. Meghan back. So I'm in his energy, and I'm looking at her. Her back is to him. She's not facing him. He feels alone and needs inner child healing. That's my opinion. He needs some inner child work. If anybody knows him, tell him to give me a call. Love to do hypnotherapy and get some, has nothing to do with mushrooms or drugs or anything like that. And meditation might be part of it, but I feel like there's a lot of inner work that could be done there. So, as Queen Elizabeth about Meghan, again, entertainment purposes. She says she's an American hussy. Harry was taken, meaning he was fooled, needed guidance, blames himself a bit for how it was all handled. Blames herself, a bit for how it was all handled. She thinks she could have done it better or different. Meghan hurt us to prove to Harry she was right. So she was intentionally meaning to hurt them to prove to him that she was right. Meghan was right. So sick, sad. She wants them back eventually. The Queen wants them back eventually, and she wants them to be part of the family again. She wants William and Harry to reconcile, of course, but accepts it may not happen. Because a woman lives that long, anybody lives that long, you see everything in the world and you go, oh, you want it to be something. But in reality, many times that thing doesn't occur. She understands that life has its hard realities. Okay, that was it. Well, that kind of ended abruptly. All right, well, again, thank you all for coming by. I am going to do some more politics. I'm very interested in Stonehenge. Somebody asked me about that more than my other list. I have lots of lists of things that you guys give me suggestions, so thank you very much. I'm getting into Trump's energy in the water where I am now on the shore, and his administration. I see his dementia. I feel, and I've said this before, I know many times seems like he's okay, and then he'll have a drop. It's a drop. He goes to little, maybe not physically, but mentally. He has little, stair step, little down. Like he plateaus and a little bit down. Plateaus, a little bit down. And he's really focused on the money they're making, of course, as he is. And he gets distracted. That's his ultimate goal. Being president is just a means to an end to stay out of jail. But will he be there next year even? So this is May of 25. Yeah, I don't see him going anywhere this summer. In a year's time, April, May, next year, what happens? Does he get sick? I heard he gets sick. I don't know. Something may happen. I also wanted to see if I wanted to also see if the Democrats were going to come back with force, if they're going to come up with a new strategy, which isn't just against Trump, but it's for something else, creating a new world besides lifting people up and being authentic. I see Hakeem Jeffries. I don't know if he's going to be part of that, but I see him as leader in that department. But he also has some flaws in this whole. The Democrats really, and I'm a Democrat. They need to get more organized and more focused on what their goals are. Besides, well, they need to keep stopping the Republicans that are trying to change everything and break laws and break their oath against the Constitution, because the Constitution is our. Anyway, magic works through you. That's it for now. Thanks again for coming by. I love your suggestions. Thank you. And all your emails. I've gotten several emails from my viewers. They're very interesting. You guys, I have a very smart community. I'm not wrong. You guys are super smart and a lot of history. So, all right. Till next time, take care, drink lots of water, go on walks if you can, do some meditation, get in your body, get out of this, just feel your feelings, and I don't know, maybe have a cookie or two, whatever makes you happy. Okay, till next time.